Good morning to y'all, ladies and gentlemen. A happy August the 2nd, Friday. Happy Friday. What's happening out there, family? How y'all doing today? Welcoming us who are, and I want to qualify something. So we're not talking, when we speak on the 600, I'm talking about, I just want to reiterate this for folks who may get confused. We're talking about the views, how many times this podcast has been viewed. Okay? We're not talking about followers. We're not doing that kind of thing. We are talking about how many times the thing has been viewed. Your boy can't do that, man. I hear I hear myself. You know, the plain truth of the thing actually is very funny when you think about it, man. So I cannot listen to myself that much, right? But thankfully y'all do, right? There's truth in the words and the thoughts here that beat from the mind and the heart of this humbly created creation that I am tasked with, that I have picked up the mantle and the challenge to speak it to people, to the nations, to people, right? That's what this comes down to. This is not about occupation, forced militant occupation. That's not what this is about. This is about defending and protecting those things of which you've been given and hold dear. This is about sharing those things of which you have been given and hold dear. Right? We got to come to certain conclusions, ladies and gentlemen. We done talked about this on this podcast before. This is the heart of the thing. And this is the part people love doing, that good happy feet dance, as we've talked about on this podcast before. People are good, man. They look like them little penguins doing their happy feet, man. They do. Dancing around topics. It don't matter what it is. Folks are okay staying stuck and keeping you stuck there with them. Here on this podcast, we're about setting you free. In going through and just thinking about life, it just so happened, right? Because we're always gleaning. We look to the family, right? We are a family. There's something that has to be put to bed when we talk on social media, ladies and gentlemen, and it is the fact that social media is not the problem. Like many things in life, that is another misnomer. It is the people who use social media who are the problem. It is an issue when your president is okay putting out you want to talk about national security. We all sat. This is the ring around the rosy that everybody wants to do with Donald Trump. See, this is not a thing against anybody. Before we get into today's topic, also to complete the open, y'all welcome in, right? Us, the 600. I boldly can now say the 600 plus strong, who listen to this podcast, right? Who have viewed this podcast that we call A Different View. Okay. Just as a thing here, just to let people know where you can listen to this podcast, because it's a question that I'm getting a lot lately. Again, we are on Spotify. What I do is through Spotify for podcasters. So shout out to Spotify for podcasters for putting on this platform where myself and many other people can speak the truth of a thing, right, when it is needed to be said. And for such a time as this, as we've talked about on this podcast, it's time to say a thing. It's time to rebuild the walls that have been broken down, seriously, right? And here on this podcast, that's the goal and the mission. It again, like we have mentioned, a surgeon doing surgery gets blood on the hands, but at the end of the day, the idea is for the person to be repaired, to be restored, restituted, healed, and made whole. You may be left with scars as reminders of that which you went through. Those scars do not define you. Today's going to be a little bit of an encouragement episode, y'all. Those scars don't define you. Not in the sense where you stay there looking at that scar. Look at the whole of your body along with that scar, right? And while we're speaking in physical form, that also happens in your mind. So you can remember the horrible things that happened to you. They don't define you. The totality of your life defines you. And there is more to go. Right? So, going through my social medias, and we're going to tie in here just different thoughts that we've spoken on over time on this podcast. Because again, it's about life is one woven tapestry, ladies and gentlemen, that happens in multiple times. You know, this is the horrible thing about classifying people the way the explorer, the colonizer, aka what we call in this podcast the invader, did. Again, you have scientific invaders. So if they sat there and they decided, oh yeah, these people are black, maybe we're not, right? Maybe we're not called black. Maybe you called us black. Maybe y'all are not called white. Maybe that's what they called you, was white. Maybe you actually do come from Europe, Scandinavian area, right? Viking land, huh? Eastern, northern, southern, western Europe, and all in between on the compass, right? They like to put you in a trick bag, ladies and gentlemen, so that they could classify on a certain way so they could divide up the spoils they took. That's the point. Time to redefine the game, y'all. Anyway. You are you. Not just the sum total of what you went through, but the sum total of every event you live. That's you. Okay? And you can change those things. That's the beauty of how we've been created. We can change those things. See, our Creator created all this from void, from nothing. And you can do the same thing in your life. But you got to take steps to do it. You got to take the steps to do it. Same thing as me doing this podcast. No different in anything, right? Talking about Black Business Month. Shout out to Black Business Month. I found out just looking it up because, again, you want to know. When you're telling people stuff, you want to know, right? Because you want to know yourself. And then so that you could share it to someone else. In 2004, Black Business Month was made. And is celebrated in August. Historian John William Templeton and engineer Frederick E. Jordan. This is something you can, again, all you got to do, ask your computer phone, when did Black Business Month start? They created the month to support policies that would impact more than 2.6 million African American businesses in this country, and that number has to grow. That number has to grow. In order for humanity to grow and profit, right? Each group, each culture has to grow. Each garden has to grow in order for the planet's ecology to be okay, right? Same thing with the humans. This goes on to say Black businesses have been a vital part of American economy for generations, with free and enslaved Black people opening small businesses as early as the late 1700s. I'm going to leave it up to y'all to, again, this is just dropping the nugget here because, again, we said free and enslaved Black people, right? So, again, you leave it up to y'all to put the two and two together, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to stop doing the dance. It's time to stop doing the mental dance, man. People were enslaved on these lands. And yes, also, our dear African brothers and sisters were also brought here and enslaved on these lands. Some of them, yes. Many of them, yes. Sold by their own African brothers and sisters. Still horrible, just the same. And Europe should have had nothing to do with that mess. How about that? What you should have read in the history books is that Africans brought over African slaves here. You should not have read African tribes sold African slaves to Europeans who brought them here, right? Now, of course, you could say, in essence, the African did this to their brother, to their sister, young and old, right? Because they did. But again, here is the caveat in all that. The European brought them. See, keep your hands far, far away from the garbage people do to each other. That's the point, ladies and gentlemen. Don't have your hand in this mess. If you're about life and godliness, you keep your hands. See, again, the way the Bible tells you in the latter parts of the New Testament is to avoid the very appearance. And Christian folks dabble in the appearance of it when you about take over. And that is what this is. God has made this world for us to live down here in peace, y'all. Different people, different beliefs, existing in the world all the same. See, but when you get on that control game, which is driven by greed, evil of the highest orders, we just got to say it, y'all. When you get there, that's a problem. That's a problem. And you see the byproducts of it. And sure enough, we do today, man. Endless death. That's not how that thing's supposed to look. See, we talked about down on this podcast, y'all. We dealing with, again, if you're talking about disciples and followers and all this stuff we talk about, y'all, where are the teachers at? Where are the leaders? Where are your philosophers? Where are the people who are going to talk about the fundamental nature of things? Get down to the brass tactics. Go past the stuff that you've been told. Be bold enough to restudy it and show it and see it again. And this is this case here with Black Business Month. So I just wanted to bring that out to y'all real quick. Let's dive on in further in today's topic. Again, just talking about life. Today is actually going to be talking about wisdom. I'm going to break down wisdom to you a little bit. Again, in surfing the social medias, we got a bombshell, man. I'm talking about a bombshell. And I never really thought of it in this light, but man, seeing the words just drove it home. So we're going to share it with the family today. And the quote is as follows. You know, when you get these quotes online, y'all, they're coming from somewhere. I understand we want to fact check just to make sure people aren't playing around with things and all that kind of thing. But some of this stuff y'all need to just take as what it is, right? In a world where too much misinformation is being sown, be careful that you don't become some weird, odd, twisted version of the police. You know, I didn't have a chance to say this last time getting on that whole thing with Sonia Massey. But again, if y'all are a band of brothers, I said this thing to a brother talking about this very same subject. And since Sonia Massey is just recent, this applies here. Before we get into this quote. They're a band of brothers, much like in the military. A band of sisters, right? And when you watch most of these TV shows and all this kind of stuff, they're starting to play around with the thought, which is real. And again, it gets poo-pooed on inside the service, and it gets poo-pooed on in the cop house. And this is the point. Brothers and sisters, family fight, y'all, right? This is why America needs to be careful what they're dealing with over in the Middle East, the United States needs to be careful what they're dealing with in the Middle East, but I digress. Families fight, y'all, right? Sometimes we need to stay out that fight, right? And then sometimes you looking at it, and it's brother killing brother that then pours over into how family members operate in some very damaging dynamic, we'll say it that way. Do you just let your family members go down the tubes? I know some people do, but we ask it, and I know sometimes it's unavoidable. But is that the case? Do you let them go down the tubes, ladies and gentlemen? These folks are hurting in their mind, y'all. They've been trained a certain way to think about you that they don't say. And they hide behind the law to do it, right? This is the game. This is the game. If you honor anything that deals with policing, anything that deals with people holding up law and justice, keeping order on a certain level to the chaos that is in life, this is very important that we do support our police, but in a different light than those who are okay giving them a pass. You don't let your family member who's sitting there addicted on crack cocaine just now. Again, some people do. Sometimes you cannot help them. Yet, that does not mean you don't try. And in the case of our dear police officers and office stresses, I guess how would you say that for women? Office threats, I guess, or just say officer. Sometimes certain women are okay without doing that whole gender identification thing, right? Some are not, which we understand both sides of the topic. We got to call out the mess, y'all. And again, where the thing turns into a mean girl and a mean boy party, it's time that we say that is wrong. And it is wrong. Should the less for me personally, this is again the opinion of the content creator. Defunding needs to turn into reallocation. That's what it needs to turn into. Reallocation of the funds. You need police officers who understand people. You need police officers of the same folks. This is why I'm saying to my to our black brothers and sisters, police your own community. Pick up that which grandmama, right? Like we on that Larry Johnson commercial back in the day when he was playing for the Charlotte Hornets, grandmama. Get back way before Medea, grandmama, right? Get back to grandmama. Get back to those teachings, man. Because like we say on this podcast, even though parents had a whole lot of fluff there was a lot of truth, y'all. Statements like why you gotta buy the cow when you can get the milk for free, as a warning to stop giving away your resources and make people pony up with their money, with themselves, the real them, if they're gonna deal with you. You're not taking my talents and not paying me correctly for it. And Lord, don't you know black folk know all about that, right? And many other people groups that know a lot about that, including white women. Because the men were okay showing them around as show ponies for them to show off their high price stuff. See the little bit you got on your body and the nice cute dress and the body augmentations, will say it that way. See, all that stuff was just to show off the man, not the woman. We're about setting people free today, man. Come out from among them and be separate. And that's the point that you start seeing. You see a lot of that today, and people don't like it. People don't like seeing women expressive now. Because sexism is reigned supreme in the mind. That's just what it is. That ain't no unholiness and all the other stuff we keep doing. It's the trap we've been doing this whole time, unfortunately, using the Bible improperly. Listen how I said it. They use it improperly. So, again, brothers fight. We get that. They're a band of brothers. But when the family has a bad dynamic, you got to call it out. You see an alcoholism, and again, I understand the triggers that this may be for certain people. You see the alcoholism at work. That's not the time to just let them use the bottle to their death. You see the drugs and all that kind of stuff happening. That's not to let them just inject themselves to their death. You got to step in the gap, y'all. Where those who bridge the gap, y'all, right? So, speaking of that, good segue into this thing. Here is the quote. Hurt people hurt others. You have heard me say that on this podcast a lot, right? We've learned that. Again, we've referenced preacher, minister, teacher, however you want to say it, right? Joyce Meyer. And again, for those who have an issue with your big time preachers and they have done a whole lot of wrong, we get that. Still, there are some jewels and gems to glean from them, okay? And I understand people take that thought out of context, but again, look to the heart of the matter, right? This idea where this sister, where other brothers in the church were not making this popular to talk to women, because y'all brothers is full of sexism in your mind. You allowed that which was a male-dominated thing throughout Judaism and even Arabian culture to then turn into women got to sit up in the back corner of the pew and we can't say nothing and they can't lead, they can't do nothing. Keep the hat on your head and you just sit there and be quiet. God let you know the opposite way, that if you will not acknowledge that which is the goodness of God, that the rocks will cry out. Now, the Bible also talks about how the truth and knowledge come out the mouth of babes, right? So then what does that lead you to think about? See, again, nobody using their good logic. You're not using that good logic God gave you. You're not. You're actually flowing on just the doldrums in your mind from what someone else told you. But this is the beauty in the Bible, to tell you to renew your mind. To tell you what type of thoughts to think on. Because there's a balance of the opposite way that you could think, right? If the Babes and the Rocks is doing some crying, don't you think that women would be involved? I digress. And I looked up, I already know about it, but again, we like to bring refreshments to the mind. Normally when we say I digress is dealing with, I like to use it in a very cynical way on purpose, right? I digress deals with this idea that you're talking and it's not an original topic, then you get off of it, so you say I digress. Again, I like to use I digress as a kind of way of saying anyway, because people just don't want to hear a certain thing. So I digress and I move on, right? Not that the subject is not necessary to talk about. Excuse me. We just keep moving on. So, hurt people hurt others. But luckily, now again, for me, I realize when you speak on the word luck, things are not happening by chance. This may be the first time that I'm talking about this on this podcast, but here we go anyway. So things that, again, life, a series of events that is happening. Some happen over here, some happen over there. Other places it's not happening there, and other places it's not happening there, right? Me personally, I don't look at it as chance. I think they are no different than what we are told. We're going to go through things in life, and you got to be ready to go through those things. I don't think that's just happening by chance, per se. So that's just me. However, let's continue. But luckily, healed people heal people. Man, how powerful. Safe people shelter others. Free spirits free others. Enlighten people illuminate others. And love always wins. Well, maybe people don't believe that love always wins. Maybe people don't believe that love wins, man. The heart of the thing. What does your Bible tell you, y'all? When it comes to love, see, we miss it, y'all. This is a good time to bring in this verse, man. This is the first time y'all have heard me talk on this podcast, right? There's many a firsts to come. 1 Corinthians 13, man. 1 Corinthians 13. See, Christians are okay. Got to talk about my brothers and sisters, right? Since I'm part of the faith here. Got to talk about our sisters and brothers of the faith, man. See, this goes past Christianity. This goes to what you believe, your faith, your belief. You drop that England mess. And you go higher to the one that made you. The ultimate, the supreme understanding. See, we putting names on God, y'all. No. Higher than what you think. Higher. Go higher. Right? Though I speak with the tongues of men and angels. So we're talking about, you can talk in all different types of languages. Have not charity. I like to break down charity basically as love in action, because that's what it deals with, right? I'm not going to get into the word. I could do that later. A little snoop in the background. Have not charity and become a sounding brass. Again, we talked about that whole thing with the Gong Show. Let me let this play for a second. Ba-boom. Anyway, I am become as a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. Y'all hear the drums? You just listen to just the cymbals being played over and 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 over. See, so now by the time I've been saying this over and over like that, and you got that mental image in your head, that's what it sounds like when you do all this talking and ain't no love in action. That's what it sounds like. And don't you know, you got a lot of folks out there, Christian and non-Christian. That's what they doing. Again, you just get down to the whole thing on that for time. Well, we will come back to this chapter. 13th chapter of 1 Corinthians, 13 verses. Very short, very powerful thing. Now abideth. Let's do 12. Though we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. This is talking about when you come to your completion once you're dead, but also the progression as you go along as well. You see through a glass darkly. You know what that's like when you're trying to catch, early in the morning you wake up, you're trying to look at yourself in the mirror. You don't really fully see yourself until you open your eyes all the way, until you turn, until you get, more, maybe you got your hall light on in your house or whatever. And then you get, then it leads to, depending on how your bathroom is situated, to where your light source is, right? Because this is what we're talking about, the light source, as compared to you looking in the mirror with no light source. Then face to face, now I know in part, but then I shall know even as I am also known. Now abideth faith, hope, charity. Again, the Bible makes sure that it keeps talking about love in action. This is this idea that good old jolly England didn't know that they were saying. See, when we talk about love, we're talking about love in action, y'all. Yeah, let's and then we're gonna end. Where are we at? 26 minutes. Yeah, then we're going to end on wisdom. We're going to end this thing, end on wisdom. And y'all go about your day. Enjoy your weekend. So here we go. Waiting for the computer to... I love it. All right. Charity, right? An organization set up to provide help and raise money for those in need. See, I like how people do this. I like how people play with the definition. Again, this is all coming from Oxford's dictionary. The body of organizations viewed collectively as the object of fundraising or donation. Again, we talk like a charity, but we're not talking about a charity. We're talking about charity, right? The voluntary giving of help, typically in the form of money to those in need. Oh man, hey, are y'all getting it yet? Anyway, let's keep. Oh man, kindness and see, I'm telling you, the Bible is not what people have brought to you, thinking that this is what the Bible is telling you. It's not. It's what somebody else twisted up the words to tell you that's what it means. Kindness, and this is not a thing. It's like this. Let me go back just a little bit here as we're approaching the close of this episode. This is not sitting here to make a defense for the Bible. I don't need to do that, right? The Creator don't need me, right? This is providing some info. That's all what this is. The Bible talks about how we persuade men with what we do. Again, this is not a forcing you to. No, we bring information and you make a choice. That's how it always has worked, right? The voluntary giving of help, okay? Help with money given voluntarily. It also interesting that you're starting to see the word voluntary in there. See, again, I told y'all, people don't want to do a thing, but it's hurting them in the back end. They don't realize it. Kindness and tolerance in judging others. Okay, so we're getting a little close. Archaic. Ooh. You watch out when you start seeing the word archaic in the definition of a word, because that's what they left behind to pick up something new, right? Love of humankind, typically in a Christian context. Yeah, okay. Oh, gosh, man. Good God. All right, so let's just look a little deeper, right? We're doing this in real time, right? Etymology. The etymology of the word. What is the etymology of the word charity? Old English, benevolence for the poor. And the poor you will have what you always. Interesting. And then they talk about Christian love in its highest manifestation. I'm not going there because it gets a little too spooky. We're talking about that which you can touch and hold. Charity, mercy, compassion, alms, from the Latin caritem, if I'm saying caritatium, excuse me. Costliness, esteem, affection, dear, or from charis, meaning dear or valued. Some things that deal with to like or to desire, which means you can desire charity, but that's interesting. In Vulgate, the Latin word is often used as translation of the Greek agape, meaning love. This is why I say most of the time when you see this word, it's always something dealing with love and then in action, or love in action, right? This is how I was brought up with it, and actually is very true when you look to the words, right? To esteem highly, right? So let's see. Especially Christian love of fellow man, as perhaps to avoid the sexual suggestion of amor. The Latin word amor, let's break down that wall for a minute. If you have charity, which is love in action toward your spouse, it is going to be very sexual in nature. Now, what they're trying to get away from is the irresponsibility in sex. But the two coincide. See, again, you thinking of charity is like, giving out money, like to put a pat on your back. That's not real charity, because there's no love there. See, you replace the love with the, hey, look, I gave this to you. That's not good enough. And you see that in all types of places. On the job, friendships. People think they hot stuff because they helped you do a job. You're supposed to do. That's your reasonable. Never mind. That ain't no charity there. That's where haughtiness comes in. If you cannot help someone without any payback, this is not to say that you shouldn't be paid back. I'm saying the heart of the matter where you come from. This is what this verse in Corinthians is talking about. So affections, people ought to feel one to another. That's the general sense coming from the 1300s. Also gets into the word philanthropy. We're not going to get into that right now. Because again, this is where you build no different than philosophy. You build a whole almost business-like environment around being good to people. But anyway, people use that and misuse that today so that they can get tax breaks. This is where charity has come into play now, as the word has been diluted. Now abideth faith, hope, and charity. This is where you get the word love from. But the greatest of these is love. Love on display, y'all. That's what charity's dealing with. Love always wins. I'm gonna finish off this thing here. So shine your light of love on all who may cross your path in life, because what you do matters. Wisdom, y'all. Wisdom. We're at 33 minutes. Give me the 35 if you could, just to break down wisdom. Funny how wisdom is given by God liberally, right? Without upbraiding, and yet wisdom in the Bible is used many times as a female thought. Comes from a feminine thought process. Wisdom, its definition, is the quality of having experience, the quality of having, right? Break it down. Again, also coming from Oxford. Experience, knowledge, and good judgment. Good judgment. We are missing the good judgment. We got the judgment part down. We ain't got that good judgment though. Quality of being wise. That's just redundant. So that whole part right there is the powerful thing. The soundness of an action. See, again, sound mind, right? You've not been given the spirit of fear. Power, love, also charity, right? A sound mind. Female action. In the Hebrew, when you see it in the Old Testament, a female action. People, because of sexism, have a split in them that is not right. It's pseudo. It's not supposed to be there. Men and women operate in the masculine and feminine on a daily basis because it was put there by God for you to operate that way. You got to say that boldly, y'all. You got to say that boldly. And what we do by being disrespectful to homosexual people and transgender people, we don't went too far. Mocking that which God actually put in you. This is why the Bible talks about husbands can nurture, right? You're supposed to nurture. Well, let's just do this real quick. Bring them to the remembrance. Just to bring up to the remembrance, lest we forget. Lest we forget. Let's just see here. This is a little too far. Hold on. Let's go back. Okay, I might be. I want to say that the verse that I was talking about last time with y'all, just for sake of time here, because I'm not gonna go wild here with it. But the idea where husbands, men, nurture, that's in you. That's in you. Yeah, here we go. There we go. Ephesians 6. That's where we were before talking about this with parenting, I believe, and I think I said last year. It wasn't last year we did it. It was this year. But regardless, the relationship series talking about that. Clear as day. Fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture. You can nurture your kids, man. Look at the definition of nurture. That ain't no female thing. That ain't no just for the women thing. Who told you that mess? Yo, people just don't. You are going off of all this mess someone else said. You ain't get in line with the one that made you. See, this way you can be better in line with the people that you are around that are made like you. And me and my wife, we just finished watching this movie Joyride yesterday. Again, another crude, crass movie. However, brings to light the family dynamic, y'all. We need to start loving each other more, man. Friendship, family. Man, what a good movie. I encourage all of y'all, if you got, I think it's a Stars movie, so you got to have certain things to my pirates out there right now. No, right? Oh, don't encourage piracy. Again, how about we get our economic thing right? You can lower that, but nobody wants to talk about that part of it. Oh, but KJ, people gonna steal all the time. Didn't you just say you're gonna have the poor with you always? This is the dance. That's the dance in people's minds, man. And again, I understand how it affects young artists and all that kind of thing. This is the first time we talked about piracy on this podcast. Let's understand, y'all. You don't have Robin Hood unless you have a crooked government. This is the balance, because somewhere the giving has got to occur. Never mind. I know we look over it. This is how we think about thieving. I'm not saying that the thieving part isn't right, but when you charge exorbitant amounts for things that should not be, and all you have to do is start getting involved in small business, talking about that with black businesses earlier. Just start getting involved in black business and you will find out real quick. We'll just finish off here at 40 minutes. You will find out real quick how much stuff actually costs to make things. And then when you go and you look at it in the store, oh yeah, that upcharge is all through the roof. And I know everybody got their excuse. See, you got to have a good excuse in order to continue to let master screw you. You got to have a good excuse. Start making excuses the other way, ladies and gentlemen. Right? Then we come to a full view of the matter. Let love reign supreme today in y'all's weekend. Bring light. bring healing, right, man? What a powerful quote I saw on online today. Yeah, hurt people hurt folks, but it's time to look past it a little bit further. Yeah, keep your mind. You got to keep your mind right, because people hurt people. You got to keep yourself alert and aware of the pitfalls and traps of life. But the other side of this here is that we got a job to do, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to bring healing. Let charity reign supreme. Let love reign supreme, because it does always win. All right. So that's what I got for y'all today. Happy Friday to y'all. Thank you for walking this road with me. And until next time, as always, look to find the beauty in a different view.